All right, so we have partitioned my hard drive into a series of logical drives. I have formatted each and every single one of the drives that I created. I don't know, maybe I left it as one giant 2 terabyte drive. So I formatted that to put a file system on it, make it ready to organize the files. So the next thing that I should probably do is I should create some folders. We're going to find out that there are slightly different words that we use in a command line interface. They are called directories and subdirectories. In the Windows environment, they're called folders and subfolders. They mean exactly the same thing, but they just have a different term that we use for them. So let's go into Windows and let's see how we can create folders. I'm going to go back somewhere. Let's say, let's go into my documents. And then I'm going to create a folder in here. There's a couple of different ways that I can do that. I can either click on the new folder icon, and it's going to create a new folder, and I can give it a name, my folder. Another way I can do it is that I can right-click within the space, and I can select New. Let's see if it will allow me to select or create a new folder. I'll call this another new folder, so I can give it a name. Let's see if we can accomplish the same task in DOS. So I'm going to open up DOS. At the command line, I am going to type in MD. It's short for Make Directory. MD. They're called directories in a command line interface in DOS and Linux. So MD stands for Make Directory, and then I'm going to give the file a name. I'll call it a DOS folder. And I press enter, and I have no idea if anything works. So I'm going to do it again. MD, I'll call it DOS folder 2, just to give it another one. Let's see. The interesting thing about a command line interface is that the vast majority of the time it doesn't tell you if what you did worked or not. Sometimes it does, but not usually. Most of the time it doesn't tell you if it worked or not. How do I know if this worked? What I need to do, if I go back into my Windows, I can tell it worked, because if I look in the folder that I happen to be sitting in, I can see the 2 new ones there, right? My folder and another new folder. Well, in DOS, I should be able to see everything. There has to be a command that will show me everything in the folder that I currently am sitting on. And that is the dir, or the directory command. So if I type in dir, if I did indeed create 2 brand new folders wherever I happen to be sitting, I should be able to find them here. I see 2 folders right here. I see my DOS folder and my DOS folder 2. So I can see that I just created 2 new folders. Let's do it again just to make sure that it's working. How about if I MD or Make Directory, let's say DOS folder, we'll even call it version 3. So I'm going to press the Enter key. The way that I'm going to know that it works is if I in that directory, the directory that I'm currently sitting on. And now I can see that I have a DOS folder 2, and the brand new one that I just created. Create folders in Linux. This time we're going to try mkdir. This is short for Make Directory. Make Directory, and then I'm going to give it a directory name. Well, how about if we call this one Linux folder? And then I'm going to press the Enter key, and once again, I have no idea if it worked. Let's do it again. mkdir, short for Make Directory. I'm going to call this Linux folder, call it Linux folder 2. I'm going to press the Enter key. I have no idea if it worked or not. So I'm going to have to display a list of the contents of the folder that I happen to be, or the directory that I currently happen to be sitting in. And so there's 2 different ways that I can do that. I can type the dir command again, and it is going to give me a list of everything in the folder that I happen to be sitting in. Now I want you to know that your list is going to look very, very different from my list, only because I have been doing this lesson for years now. Semester after semester after semester. And every time I create things and I delete things and I copy things and I rename things, all the things that we're going to be doing today, the one thing that I fail to do at the end of every semester is come back into my Linux session and delete everything in there. So mine is going to look different from yours, but yours should look similar to the people, or to your partner, to the people that are surrounding you. You should have the 2 folders that we just created. So let's see if we can find those 2 that I just created. So I'm sure they both started with the letter L. The nice thing is that they're alphabetically arranged, and so I see Linux folder and Linux folder 2. I can see both of them in there. So it looks like it effectively created both others in my Linux directory. Another thing that I want to do is to be able to create individual files. There is a difference between creating files and folders, right? A folder is a container that I put files in, but a file is a single unit. So I'm going to go into Windows. We'll see if we can create a file. What I can do that is right-click on the space. I can click New. And then in here it gives me a variety of different files that I can create. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to call it my doc or something equally impressive and descriptive. I can create a new Excel spreadsheet if I want to. Oh, let's create an open office spreadsheet, an ODS. My spreadsheet. So now I have a couple of new documents. All right, granted they're empty. There's probably better ways to create documents. It's just to go into the application, create documents, and save them somewhere. But this is an option that's available to me. In DOS, if I wanted to create a new file, as opposed to a directory, if I wanted to create, I'm going to type in, if you have a 32-bit version of DOS, if you have a 32-bit version of the Windows operating system that you are running, I could use the command edit. There is an integral command called edit. And then I could give it a file name, and it is an embedded editor right within the operating system. They discontinued this particular editor when they went to the 64-bit version, so that command no longer works. Instead, what we're going to use is I'm going to use the start command, and I am going to launch an application that will allow me to create a file. So let's launch Notepad. So I'm going to type in start Notepad. Now, some high-functioning applications don't want to launch from the start, like Word. Word does not like to launch this way, but Notepad and WordPad, they don't care. I'm going to launch Notepad, and then I need to give it a file name. So let's see if we can launch something called my Notepad file. I'm going to give it a name, so I'll call it .txt. I'll make sure. Now, if this file exists, it will open it so that I can edit it. If the file doesn't exist, it will create it. And it says it can't find it. Do I want to create it? If I say yes, then I can say file, I can save it, and then I can exit. I called it my Notepad file. And so now I have a new file in here, but I can't tell because the list that I see doesn't have my new file in here. So if I want to see if I have a new file in here, I have to refresh my view. And I do that by typing dir. Now let's see if I have a new file in there. My notepad file.txt. So I should be able to see my new text file. Yes, sir.
So you know we mentioned like DOS folders and like DOS folder 2. What would happen if you did made a folder that already existed?
No, it's not going to tell you that it's not going to create it. No, it just flat out won't create it. Give it a try. Try to create a new folder, or if you try to create a new folder that already exists, it's just not going to create it. Give it a try. I would encourage you to try it. Make a new directory, or create a new, or make DMD a new directory that it has the same name. Yes, sir.
So why does my notepad file.txt?
Why does that file that I just created have a 19 next to it when it's the only one in the directory that does? That's because it is a file and not a folder, and that 19 is actually the size of the file. And I can tell by looking at it that this is the only file that I have wherever I happen to be sitting right now. Because if you look at the first, second, the third column in this DOS, it is saying the word directory, dir. That's because all of these names listed here are directories with one exception. The one I just created has no directory in that column. That's because it's a file. And so this DOS is going to tell me the difference between files and folders. Yes, Luke. Does that answer your question? Yes, Luke.
Also, I tried it and it gave me a note that says a subdirectory of a file DOS folder already.
Very nice. So it's going to warn you that that file already exists. Does it give you the option to overwrite yes or no?
Yeah.
It just tells you that it already exists. That's nice. It's giving you some error information. I can't create it because it already exists. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into Linux, see if we can create files within Linux. I am going to use, instead of using the edit command or the start, and I'm going to, instead of launching Notepad, Linux does have an inbuilt, it has several, number of different editors, and one of them is nano. So I'm going to type in the command nano in my Linux box, and then I'm going to give it a file name, my Linux file.txt. We're going to press enter, and it's going to take me into what would seem to be something similar to Notepad or WordPad. So I can type in, this is my Linux file. And there's some commands down across the bottom that can help me navigate what I would like to do next. So if I want to exit, I can type in Control X. Let's see, is that caret Control X? The caret indicates the control key. Now it's going to ask me, do you save it? And if I say yes, I'm just going to type the letter yes. It's saying file name to write. So I see highlighted file name to write. I typed it, I spelled Linux wrong. My Linux file.txt, I spelled it wrong. I guess I could use my arrow keys to change the S to an X. And then when I'm done, I should be able to press enter, save file under a different name, yes. And now, in theory, I should have a new file. But how do I know if I have a new file? Well, the only way that I can do that is to refresh my view. And so I refresh my view by typing in dir. And let's see if I can find my Linux file.txt. Let's create another one. Use nano. I'll give it a file name. My other Linux file.txt is the Linux editor. When I'm ready to quit, I can type Control X to exit. I want to save the modified file. It is asking if this is what I would like to call it. If it is, I can just press the Enter key. I'm going to type dir. And now I should be able to see both of my Linux files in there, the one that I just created and the one that I had before. There is my other Linux text, or my Linux file. First one, they are ordered alphabetically.